Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Our first story is titled,
Entitled Sister Demands I Help Raise Her Child. I Refused. The past year has been a whirlwind of family drama, and I need to get this off my chest. Maybe writing it all out will help me process everything that's happened. So, here it goes. I'm Sarah, 28 years old, and I have an older sister named Emily who's 32. We've never been super close, but we generally got along well enough growing up. Emily always had a bit of a wild streak. Partying, dating lots of guys, that kind of thing. Meanwhile, I was more of the responsible, studious type. I focused on my education, built a career in marketing, and am now doing pretty well for myself with a good job and my own apartment in the city. Emily, on the other hand, has bounced from job to job and never really settled down. About a year ago, she got pregnant after a fling with some guy she met at a bar. She decided to keep the baby even though the father wanted nothing to do with it. Our parents were shocked at first, but ultimately supportive. They helped Emily out financially during her pregnancy, and for the first few months after, my nephew, Liam, was born. I'll admit, when Liam arrived 6 months ago, I was excited to be an aunt. I bought him cute little outfits, visited when I could, and enjoyed cuddling with my adorable nephew. But I also made it clear to Emily that while I was happy to babysit occasionally, I had my own life and responsibilities to focus on. Everything seemed fine for the first few months. Emily was adjusting to motherhood. Our parents were doting grandparents, and I pitched in here and there when I could. But then, about 2 months ago, everything changed. I got a call from Emily one evening as I was leaving work. "Sarah, I need to talk to you about something important," she said, her voice unusually serious. "Can you come over tonight?" I was a bit concerned, but agreed to stop by her apartment after picking up some takeout for dinner. When I arrived, Emily was pacing nervously while Liam napped in his crib. "What's going on, Em?" I asked as I set down the food. "Is everything okay?" Emily took a deep breath. "Sarah, I need your help, like serious help." "Okay," I said cautiously. "What kind of help?" "I need you to move in with me and help me take care of Liam," she blurted out. I blinked in surprise. "What? Move in?" "Emily, I have my own place and a full-time job. I can't just drop everything to be your live-in nanny." Emily's expression hardened. "It wouldn't be forever. It's just for like a year or two until Liam's a little older and easier to manage." I stared at her in disbelief. "A year or two? Emily, that's insane. I'm sorry, but there's no way I could do that. I have my own life, my own responsibilities." "But you're my sister," Emily exclaimed, "and Liam's aunt. Don't you care about us at all?" "Of course I care," I said, trying to stay calm. "But caring doesn't mean upending my entire life. I'm happy to babysit sometimes or help out when I can, but I can't be a full-time caregiver. That's your job as his mother." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "You don't understand how hard this is. I'm exhausted all the time. I never get to go out or do anything fun anymore. I just need a break to be able to live my life a little." I felt a flicker of sympathy, but also frustration. "Emily, that's part of being a parent. You chose to have Liam. It's not fair to expect me to put my life on hold because you're struggling." "I'm not asking you to put your life on hold," Emily argued. "You can still work and stuff. I just need help in the evenings and on weekends, and you wouldn't have to pay rent. It's a win-win." I shook my head firmly. "No, Emily, I'm sorry, but the answer is no. I'm not moving in or becoming your full-time babysitter. That's not my responsibility." Emily's face crumpled. "I can't believe you're being so selfish. I'm your sister. Family's supposed to help each other." "I do help," I pointed out. "I babysit, I buy things for Liam, I visit, but I'm not going to derail my entire life. That's not selfish. It's having healthy boundaries." We went back and forth for a while, with Emily getting increasingly upset and manipulative. She tried guilt-tripping me, saying I didn't love Iam if I wouldn't do this. She accused me of abandoning her when she needed me most. At one point, she even threatened to tell our parents I was a terrible sister if I didn't agree. Finally, I'd had enough. Emily, stop, I said firmly. I've given you my answer and it's not changing. I'm sorry you're struggling, but this isn't the solution. Maybe we can talk about other ways I can help. But I'm not moving in or becoming your live-in nanny. That's final. With that, I gathered my things and left, ignoring Emily's continued protests and guilt trips. I figured she just needed some time to cool off and accept my decision. Boy, was I wrong. The next day, my phone exploded with messages and missed calls from my parents. Apparently, Emily had called them in tears, spinning some story about how I was refusing to help her at all and didn't care about Liam. She conveniently left out the part where she demanded I move in and give up my life for a year or two. I called my mom back, steeling myself for the conversation. Sure enough, she immediately launched into a lecture.
Sarah, how could you be so heartless? Your sister needs you and that poor baby. Don't you want to be there for your nephew?
I took a deep breath.
Mom, Emily didn't tell you the whole story. She didn't just ask for help. She demanded I move in with her for a year or two to be her full-time babysitter. I'm sorry, but that's not reasonable.
There was a pause on the other end of the line. Well, I'm sure she didn't mean it quite like that. You know how Emily can exaggerate sometimes. But even so, would it really be so terrible to live with your sister for a while and help out? I felt my frustration rising. Yes, Mom, it would be terrible. I have my own life, my own place, my own responsibilities. I'm happy to help when I can, but I'm not giving up my independence to be Emily's live-in nanny. We went back and forth for a while, with my mom trying various tactics to guilt me into giving in. She brought up all the times Emily had helped me growing up, which were few and far between, if I'm being honest. She talked about family loyalty and how we needed to stick together. At one point, she even played the "we didn't raise you to be so selfish" card. Finally, I'd had enough. Mom, I love you, but this conversation is over. I've made my decision and I'm not changing my mind. Emily is Liam's mother, not me. She needs to figure out how to manage her own life and child without expecting everyone else to sacrifice for her. I hung up feeling drained but also oddly empowered. It felt good to stand my ground and enforce my boundaries, even in the face of family pressure. Unfortunately, that was just the beginning of the drama. Over the next few weeks, I was bombarded with calls and messages from various family members. My dad tried the stern, disappointed father routine. My aunts called to reminisce about how they all helped each other with child care back in their day. Even my grandma got in on the action, tearfully asking why I didn't love my family enough to help. Through it all, I stood firm. I calmly explained my position over and over. Yes, I love Emily and Liam. Yes, I'm happy to help in reasonable ways. No, I will not give up my life and independence to be a full-time caregiver. No, that doesn't make me selfish or heartless. Emily, meanwhile, was milking the situation for all it was worth. She posted vague, passive-aggressive things on social media about how some people don't understand the importance of family. She sent me long, emotional emails detailing how stressed and overwhelmed she was, clearly trying to manipulate me into giving in. She even showed up at my apartment one night, Liam in tow, claiming she just needed a break and trying to guilt me into keeping him overnight. I'll admit there were moments when I wavered, seeing Emily struggling and Liam's innocent little face tugged at my heartstrings. The constant barrage of guilt and manipulation from my family was wearing me down. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I was doing the right thing, if I was being too harsh.
But every time I started to weaken, I reminded myself of a few key things. 1. Emily chose to have Liam. It wasn't an accident. She decided to keep the baby knowing she'd be a single mother. That choice came with responsibilities. 2. I have my own life, goals, and responsibilities. It's not selfish to prioritize those things. In fact, it's healthy and necessary. 3. Giving in to Emily's demands wouldn't actually solve anything in the long run. It would just enable her irresponsible behavior and set a precedent for her to take advantage of me. 4. There are plenty of single parents who manage just fine without a live-in sibling to help. Emily is an adult and needs to figure out how to handle her own life. Keeping these points in mind helped me stay strong and stick to my boundaries. But the situation with Emily continued to deteriorate. As the weeks went by and I didn't cave, Emily's behavior became increasingly erratic. She'd alternate between angry outbursts, tearful pleas for help, and cold silence. Our parents were at a loss, torn between wanting to support Emily and recognizing that her demands were unreasonable. Things came to a head about 2 months after Emily's initial request. I got a frantic call from my mom one evening. "Sarah, you need to come over to Emily's right away," she said, her voice tight with worry. She's not doing well." I rushed over, not sure what to expect. When I arrived, I found Emily curled up on the couch, sobbing uncontrollably. Liam was wailing in his crib, clearly having been left there for a while. The apartment was a mess, with dirty dishes piled up and laundry strewn everywhere. Our mom was trying to comfort Emily while Dad attempted to soothe Liam. They both looked exhausted and overwhelmed. "What happened?" I asked, taking in the chaotic scene. Mom shook her head. "Emily called us in hysterics, saying she couldn't do this anymore. We came over and found this." I felt a pang of guilt, wondering if I should have done more to help, but I pushed it aside, reminding myself that this wasn't my responsibility to fix. I took charge of the situation, changing and feeding Liam while my parents talked to Emily. Once the baby was settled, I joined them in the living room. Emily looked up at me, her eyes red and puffy. "Are you happy now?" she spat bitterly. "You got what you wanted. I'm falling apart and you don't even care." I took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay calm. "Emily, I do care, but this isn't about me or what I want. This is about you needing to take responsibility for your choices." "What am I supposed to do?" she wailed. "I can't do this on my own." "You're not on your own," I pointed out. "Mom and Dad have been helping. I've been babysitting when I can. But at the end of the day, Liam is your son and your primary responsibility." Emily glared at me. "It's easy for you to say that from your perfect life. You have no idea how hard this is." I felt my patience wearing thin. "You're right. I don't know exactly how hard it is, but I do know that millions of single parents manage to raise their children without demanding their siblings give up their lives to help. Have you looked into any resources for single moms, support groups, child care options?" Emily just shook her head, retreating back into tears. Our parents exchanged worried glances. Maybe Sarah's right," my dad said hesitantly. "Emily, we love you and we want to help, but we can't do everything for you. Have you considered talking to a therapist or joining a support group?" Emily's head snapped up. "You're taking her side?" she asked incredulously. "After everything I've been through?" Mom tried to soothe her. "We're not taking sides, honey. We just want to help you find a way to manage that's sustainable for everyone." The conversation went in circles for hours.
Emily alternated between anger, self-pity, and despair. By the time I left that night, nothing had really been resolved. But I felt more certain than ever that I'd made the right choice in maintaining my boundaries. Over the next few months, things remained tense. Emily refused to speak to me directly, communicating only through our parents or passive-aggressive social media posts. She struggled to care for Liam, relying heavily on our parents, and occasionally hiring a babysitter when she could afford it. I stuck to my guns, maintaining my own life while offering help when I could. I'd take Liam for an afternoon here and there, or drop off groceries when Emily was low on funds, but I refused to be guilted into taking on more than I could handle. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, things began to change. Emily, realizing that no one was going to swoop in and take over her responsibilities, started to take small steps towards managing on her own. She joined a local support group for single moms, which seemed to help her feel less alone. She found a part-time job that allowed her to work from home, giving her some income without requiring full-time childcare. She even started taking online classes towards a degree, squeezing in studying during Liam's naps. It wasn't easy, and there were plenty of setbacks along the way. Emily still had bad days where she'd lash out at me or our parents, blaming us for not doing more to help. But overall, she seemed to be slowly coming to terms with her new reality as a single mom. Our relationship, however, remained strained. The resentment and hurt feelings on both sides ran deep. Emily couldn't forgive me for what she saw as abandoning her in her time of need. I struggled to get past the manipulation and guilt trips she'd put me through. We saw each other at family gatherings, putting on polite faces for our parents' sake, but the easy rapport we'd once had was gone. Conversations were stilted and surface level, both of us careful to avoid any topics that might reignite old arguments. As Liam's first birthday approached, I found myself reflecting on everything that had happened over the past year. Part of me mourned the loss of the close relationship I'd once hoped to have with my nephew. Another part felt proud of Emily for the progress she'd made, even if she'd never acknowledged my role in pushing her towards independence. The day of Liam's party was bittersweet. I arrived with a gift and a forced smile, prepared for an afternoon of awkward small talk. Emily greeted me coolly, accepting the present with a curt thanks before turning her attention back to the other guests. As I watched Emily move around the party, confidently managing Liam and chatting with her mom friends, I felt a mix of emotions. There was sadness for the sisterly bond we'd lost, but also a sense of validation. By refusing to enable Emily's unreasonable demands, I'd forced her to step up and take responsibility for her life and her child. Towards the end of the party, I found myself alone with Emily in the kitchen as she prepared to bring out the cake. There was a moment of awkward silence before she spoke. "I want you to know," she said, not quite meeting my eyes, "that I'm doing fine. Liam and I are managing just fine without your help." I could hear the lingering resentment in her voice, but also a note of pride. "I can see that," I replied carefully. "You've really stepped up, Em. I'm proud of you." Emily's jaw tightened. "I didn't do it for you," she said sharply. "I did it for Liam and for myself." I nodded, accepting that. I know, and that's exactly as it should be. We looked at each other for a long moment, a world of unspoken words hanging between us. Then Emily picked up the cake and brushed past me, returning to the party. As I drove home that evening, I felt a complex mix of emotions. There was sadness for the relationship lost, but also a sense of peace. I stood my ground, maintained my boundaries, and in doing so had ultimately pushed Emily towards becoming the responsible parent Liam needed. Our relationship might never recover fully. The hurt and resentment ran deep on both sides, but I knew I'd done the right thing.
both for myself and, in the long run, for Emily and Liam. Family dynamics are complicated, and sometimes doing the right thing means making tough choices that others don't understand. But I've learned that it's possible to love someone while still maintaining healthy boundaries. It's not always easy, and it doesn't always lead to fairy tale endings, but it's necessary for everyone's growth and well-being. As I pulled into my driveway, I sent up a silent wish for Emily and Liam. I hoped that one day Emily would understand why I stood my ground, and even if she never did, I hope she'd continue to grow into the strong, capable mother Liam deserved. Our story didn't have a neat, happy ending, but it had led to growth, independence, and a new kind of strength for both of us. And in the end, isn't that what family should be about? Here are my thoughts about this story. I gotta give Sarah props for standing her ground. It's so easy to cave when your whole family is coming at you with the guilt trips and the "but we're family" nonsense. Trust me, I've been there, and it takes some serious backbone to keep saying no. But here's the thing that really got me thinking. Was Sarah actually being kinder to Emily in the long run by refusing to enable her? I mean, yeah, it sucked in the moment. Emily was struggling, and it probably felt like her sister was abandoning her, but by forcing Emily to figure things out on her own, Sarah might have given her the push she needed to grow up and take responsibility. It's like, imagine if Sarah had given in and moved in to help. Sure, it would have made things easier for Emily in the short term, but then what? Would Emily ever have learned to manage on her own? Would she have joined that support group or started taking classes? Or would she have just kept relying on her sister to pick up the slack? I don't know about you guys, but I've seen what happens when family members become too codependent. It's not pretty, and it usually ends up with everyone resenting each other. At least this way, Emily had to step up and become the mom Liam needed her to be. That being said, oof, the family fallout from this situation must have been brutal. I can just imagine the awkward Thanksgiving dinners with Emily and Sarah doing that weird dance of polite small talk while everyone else tries to pretend there's not a metric ton of tension in the room. Been there, done that, do not recommend. What really struck me about this story is how there's no clear-cut good guy or bad guy. Yeah, Emily was being unreasonable with her demands, but I also get how overwhelming it must be to suddenly be a single mom with no real support system. And sure, Sarah was right to maintain her boundaries, but I can see how it might have come across as cold or uncaring to her family. It's a reminder that real life isn't like the movies. Sometimes there are no perfect solutions, no big dramatic moments where everyone hugs and makes up. Sometimes you have to make the hard choice and live with the consequences, even if it means damaging relationships. I found myself wondering about Liam throughout all this. Like, how is this family drama going to affect him growing up? Will Emily's resentment towards Sarah seep into how she talks about her sister to Liam? Will he grow up feeling like his aunt doesn't care about him? Or will he understand why she made the choices she did? And what about Sarah? She stood her ground, which is admirable, but at what cost? She's lost her relationship with her sister, possibly damaged her relationship with other family members, and might never have the close bond with her nephew that she hoped for. Was it worth it? I guess that depends on your perspective. It's stories like these that remind me why I love running this channel. Life is messy, complicated, and rarely black and white. We can sit here and judge Emily for being entitled or Sarah for being selfish. But at the end of the day, they're both just humans trying to navigate a tough situation the best way they know how. So, what do you guys think? Was Sarah right to stand her ground, or should she have done more to help her sister? Have you ever been in a similar situation with your family? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious to hear your takes on this one.
And hey, if you're dealing with your own family drama right now, just remember it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to prioritize your own well being. And it's okay if things don't wrap up neatly with a bow at the end. Sometimes the messiest stories are the ones that help us grow the most.
And now, guys, we will move on to the second story of the video. Please like the video if you have enjoyed it so far. The story starts like this.
Wife's co-worker crossed the line. She lied to cover it up. This is a story I really hesitated on sharing, but here I am, and let me tell you, it sucked just as much as you'd imagine. I'm Owen, 34 years old, and up until a few months ago, I thought I had a pretty great life. Good job as an IT manager, nice house in the suburbs, and what I believed was a rock-solid marriage to my wife of 8 years, Selena. We met in college, dated for a few years, and got married at 26. No kids yet, but we'd been talking about starting a family soon. Selena works in marketing at a big tech company. She's always been ambitious and career-driven, which I loved about her. I was so proud when she got promoted to senior manager last year. Of course, the new role came with longer hours and more stress, but I tried to be supportive. I'd cook dinner on nights she worked late, give her foot rubs when she came home exhausted, listen to her vent about difficult clients. You know, normal husband stuff. Looking back now, I can see the signs that something was off. Selena started working later and later, sometimes not getting home until 9 p.m. She was constantly texting and would get jumpy if I walked by when her phone was out. There were a couple work events where spouses were invited, but she insisted I skip them because they'd be boring for me. But I trusted her completely, so I brushed off any doubts. The first real red flag came about 2 months ago. I woke up in the middle of the night and Selena wasn't in bed. I went downstairs and found her in the kitchen, furiously texting someone at 2 a.m. When she saw me, she quickly put the phone down. "Hey, what are you doing up?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "I could ask you the same thing," I said. "Who are you texting at this hour?" "Oh, just my cousin," she replied, naming one of her work friends. "She's going through a rough breakup and needed someone to talk to." It seemed plausible enough, so I didn't push it, but something about her nervous energy stuck with me. A week later, I was using Selena's laptop to print something for work when a notification popped up. It was a text from a name I didn't recognize. Joseph. The preview just said, "Can't wait to see you later." Wink emoticon. My stomach dropped. I know I shouldn't have, but I opened her messages. What I saw made me feel like I'd been punched in the gut. Flirty texts going back months, inside jokes, heart emojis, and several references to meeting up alone. I confronted Selena as soon as she got home that night. "Who's Joseph?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked confused for a moment, then said, "Oh, he's just a coworker. We're working on a big project together." "Really?" Because the texts I saw seem awfully flirty for just coworkers, I said. Selena's face hardened. "You went through my private messages? Owen, how could you invade my privacy like that?" I was stunned. Here I was, presenting evidence of her potential infidelity, and she was turning it around on me. "Don't try to deflect," I said. "I saw what I saw. Are you having an affair?" "Of course not," Selena exclaimed. "Joseph and I are just friends. Maybe we joke around sometimes, but it's completely innocent. I can't believe you don't trust me." She started crying then, saying how hurt she was that I could accuse her of cheating. Somehow, I ended up being the one apologizing by the end of the conversation. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Over the next few weeks, I found myself paying closer attention to Selena's behavior. She was definitely hiding her phone more. She started taking work calls in another room. One night she told me she had to work late, but when I drove by her office at 8 p.m., her car wasn't there.
I hated feeling suspicious of my own wife. I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid, but the doubt was eating away at me. Finally, I decided I needed to know the truth, one way or another. I hired a private investigator. I felt sleazy doing it, but I was at my wit's end. The PI tailed Selena for a week and gathered photo and video evidence. When he showed me what he'd found, my worst fears were confirmed. Selena had been meeting up with Joseph several times a week. There were photos of them having intimate dinners, holding hands as they walked through a park. The worst was a video of them kissing passionately outside a hotel before going inside together. They were there for over 2 hours. I felt like my entire world was crumbling. The woman I loved, who I thought I knew better than anyone, had been lying to my face for months. How could she do this to me? To us. I spent the next day in a daze trying to figure out what to do. Part of me wanted to confront Selena immediately, but another part wanted irrefutable proof, something she couldn't lie or explain her way out of. So I waited. That Friday, Selena told me she had to work late again. I knew from the PI surveillance that she and Joseph usually met up on Fridays. This was my chance. I told Selena I was going to hang out with some friends that night. Instead, I parked down the street from the restaurant where I knew she'd be meeting Joseph. Sure enough, at 7 p.m., I saw them walk in together, arm in arm. I gave them about an hour, then walked into the restaurant. I spotted them immediately, sitting close together in a booth, laughing and touching each other's hands. They were so wrapped up in each other that they didn't even notice me approaching. "Well, this is cozy," I said loudly. Selena's head whipped around, her eyes going wide with shock and fear when she saw me.
Owen, what are you doing here?
"I could ask you the same thing," I replied coldly. "I thought you were working late, unless your job description changed to have romantic dinners with coworkers." Joseph, to his credit, looked extremely uncomfortable. "I should go," he mumbled, starting to stand up. "Oh no, please stay," I said. "I'd love to hear how long this has been going on. How long have you been screwing my wife behind my back?" "Sir, I think you need to calm down," Joseph said, glancing around nervously. People at nearby tables were starting to stare. "Calm down? You're with my wife and you want me to calm down?" I was shouting now, months of pent-up anger and hurt pouring out.
Owen, please, let's not do this here,
Selena pleaded, grabbing my arm. I yanked it away. "Why not here?" I asked. "Are you embarrassed? Ashamed? You should be. How could you do this to me, Selena? I loved you. I trusted you completely." Selena was crying now. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "This isn't what it looks like. Joseph and we're just..." "Don't," I cut her off. "Don't you dare lie to me again. I know everything. The texts, the secret meetings, the hotel rooms. Did you think I was stupid? That I wouldn't figure it out eventually?" By now, a manager had come over. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave," he said firmly. I laughed bitterly. "Don't worry. I'm done here. Enjoy your dinner." I spat at Selena and Joseph before storming out. I drove home in a blur of rage and grief. When Selena got home an hour later, I was waiting for her in the living room.
"Owen, we need to talk,"
she said, her voice shaky. "Oh, now you want to talk," I replied. "Fine, let's talk. Let's talk about how you've been lying to me for months. Let's talk about how you've been cheating on me with your coworker. Let's talk about how you tried to gaslight me when I confronted you before." Selena sank onto the couch, putting her head in her hands.
"I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I never meant for this to happen."
"But it did happen," I said, "and you let it keep happening. Why, Selena? Why wasn't I enough for you?" She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face.
"It's not that you weren't enough. I don't know. It all happened so gradually. Joseph and I got close working on this project. He made me feel excited and appreciated in a way I hadn't in a long time." I sat across from her, my anger momentarily replaced by a desperate need to understand. "Tell me how it started," I said quietly. "I need to know." Selena took a deep breath. "It was about 6 months ago. We were assigned to lead this huge marketing campaign together. We started spending a lot of time working late, brainstorming ideas. At first, it was purely professional, but Joseph, he was always so complimentary. He'd praise my ideas, tell me how smart and talented I was." She paused, wiping her eyes. "I know it sounds stupid, but it felt good. You and we'd fallen into such a routine. I can't remember the last time you really complimented me like that." I wanted to argue to defend myself, but I held my tongue. I needed to hear the whole story. "Anyway, one night we were working really late. We just finished the pitch deck for the campaign. Joseph suggested we have a drink to celebrate. I should have said no, but I didn't. We went to a bar near the office. We were both a little tipsy, laughing about inside jokes from work. And then..." Selena's voice trailed off. I could guess what came next, but I needed to hear her say it. "And then what?" I prompted. "He kissed me," Selena said softly. "It caught me off guard. I pulled away at first, told him I was married, but he just looked at me with those intense eyes of his and said, 'I know, but I can't help how I feel about you.' And then he kissed me again, and I kissed him back." My hands clenched into fists. I could picture it so clearly. My wife in some dimly lit bar, locking lips with this guy who wasn't me. It made me feel sick. "We didn't sleep together that night," Selena continued. "I went home feeling guilty and confused. I told myself it was a mistake, that it wouldn't happen again. But then at work the next day, Joseph acted like everything was normal. He was so calm and confident. We went right back to working on the project like nothing had happened." "But things had changed," I said. It wasn't a question. Selena nodded. "Yeah, there was this tension between us. We'd find excuses to touch each other, a hand on the arm, sitting closer than necessary during meetings. Joseph would send me flirty texts, just innocent enough that I could pretend they didn't mean anything." "When did you start sleeping with him?" I asked bluntly. Selena flinched at my tone. "About a month after that first kiss. We were on a business trip for a conference. We had adjoining hotel rooms. One night, after the day's events were over, Joseph invited me to his room to go over our presentation for the next day. But when I got there..." "Let me guess," I said bitterly. "No presentation materials in sight." "No," Selena admitted. "Just Joseph with a bottle of wine and this look in his eyes. I knew what would happen if I stayed. I knew I should leave, but I didn't. I let him pour me a glass of wine. I let him kiss me. And then we got together." I got up abruptly, needing to put some physical distance between us. The thought of Selena with another man made me want to punch something, or throw up, or both. "After that, it just spiraled," Selena said. "We'd find any excuse to be alone together. Late nights at the office, fake business lunches, stolen moments in supply closets. I felt like a teenager sneaking around. It was exciting and terrifying at the same time." "And what about me?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Did you think about me at all while you were screwing your coworker?" Selena started crying again. "Of course I did. I felt guilty all the time, but I also felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. Joseph made me feel desired, appreciated. I know it's no excuse, but our marriage had become so routine. I love you, Owen, but somewhere along the way we stopped really seeing each other." I laughed humorlessly. "So this is my fault because I didn't compliment you enough?" "No," Selena exclaimed. "That's not what I'm saying at all. What I did was wrong, period. There's no excuse for it. I'm just trying to explain how it happened, how I let myself get to this point.
We sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of her confession hanging heavy between us. I want a divorce, I said finally. Selena's head snapped up.
Owen, no, please. We can work through this. I'll quit my job. Cut off all contact with Joseph. We can go to couples counseling. I'll do anything to fix this.
I shook my head. There's nothing to fix, Selena. You broke us. You broke my trust completely. How could I ever believe anything you say again?
Please,
Selena begged.
I love you. It was a mistake, a stupid, horrible mistake. But what we have is worth fighting for.
Part of me wanted to give in, to take her in my arms and pretend we could go back to how things were, but I knew we couldn't. The image of her with Joseph was seared into my brain. Every time I looked at her, I'd wonder if she was lying, if she was thinking of him. No, I said firmly. It's over. I want you out of the house by the end of the week. Selena broke down sobbing. I walked out of the room, unable to watch her cry. I'd shed enough tears over her already. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyer meetings, dividing up our assets and telling our families and friends what had happened. Selena tried several times to change my mind, swearing she'd ended things with Joseph and begging for another chance. But my mind was made up. The trust was irreparably broken. I moved out of our house and into a small apartment. It was hard starting over at 34. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I was making a mistake, but then I'd remembered the sight of Selena and Joseph together, all the lies she told me, and I knew I was doing the right thing. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. In the end, we split most of our assets 50-50. I let Selena keep the house. I couldn't stand the thought of living there with all the memories anyway. It's been 6 months now since that night at the restaurant. I'd be lying if I said I was completely over it. There are still days when I miss Selena, when I want to call her and try to work things out. But I know that's just nostalgia for what I thought we had, not what our relationship really was. I'm slowly rebuilding my life. I've thrown myself into work, started going to the gym regularly, reconnected with old friends I'd neglected. I'm not ready to date yet, but I know someday I will be. And when that day comes, I'll go into my next relationship with open eyes, knowing the signs to watch for and the importance of trust. As for Selena, last I heard, she and Joseph had officially started dating. Part of me hopes they're happy together. A bigger part hopes karma comes back to bite them both. But mostly I'm just focused on moving forward with my own life. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that you can never be too careful with your heart. Trust is precious and fragile. Once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to fully repair. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I ever knew. I survived my worst nightmare, and I'm still standing. To anyone out there going through something similar, I know that it does get better. The pain doesn't go away completely, but it does fade. Focus on yourself, surround yourself with supportive people, and don't be afraid to ask for help. If you need it, you will get through this, just like I did. And to those who are tempted to cheat or who are currently cheating, please think about the pain you're causing. Is it really worth destroying someone you supposedly love? Is it worth breaking up a family, ruining friendships, shattering trust? Because I can tell you from experience, the damage you do lasts far longer than any momentary excitement or passion. Looking back now, I can see that my marriage to Selena was probably doomed even before the affair. We had grown apart over the years, taking each other for granted and failing to communicate properly. That doesn't excuse her cheating, but it does make me realize that relationships take constant work and nurturing. You can't get complacent even when things seem perfect. In a strange way, I'm almost grateful for what happened. Not for the pain and betrayal, of course, but for the wake-up call it gave me. I had been coasting through life, assuming everything would always stay the same. Now I know better. I'm more self-aware, more appreciative of the good things in my life, and more cautious about who I let into my heart. I know this story doesn't have the satisfying revenge ending that some people might be hoping for. I didn't key Selena's car or expose her affair to the whole company or anything like that. To be honest, I was tempted. In my darkest moments, I fantasized about ways to hurt her like she hurt me. But in the end, I realized that the best revenge is simply living well. So that's what I'm focusing right now, building a life that makes me happy and fulfilled, with or without a partner. I'm rediscovering old hobbies, trying new things, and working on becoming the best version of myself. And you know what? It feels pretty damn good. Don't get me wrong, there are still tough days. Holidays are hard. Seeing happy couples sometimes makes my heart ache. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bitter when I heard Selena and Joseph moved in together. But those moments pass, and I remind myself how far I've come. I'm not the same naive, trusting guy I was a year ago, but I also refuse to let this experience turn me into someone bitter and cynical. I still believe in love. I still hope to find a partner to share my life with someday. I'll just be a lot more careful about who I give my heart to next time. To wrap this up, I guess I want to thank you. Thank you for the friends and family who supported me through the darkest times. Thank you to my therapist for helping me process everything in a healthy way. Thank you even to Selena, in a way, for teaching me some hard but valuable lessons about life and love. And thank you to anyone reading this. Writing it all out has been cathartic for me, and I hope that sharing my story might help someone else going through something similar. Remember, you are stronger than you know. You can survive this, and there is life and love and happiness waiting for you on the other side of heartbreak. Believe in yourself, and don't ever settle for less than you deserve. Here are my thoughts about this story. And, well, huge props to Owen for sharing this raw and honest account of his experience. It takes some serious guts to put yourself out there like that, especially when you're dealing with something as painful as infidelity. You know, as I was reading this, I couldn't help but think about how easily we can all fall into that trap of complacency in our relationships. It's like you get comfortable, you think everything's fine, and then bam! Cheating wife, divorce, and a new start. I mean, don't get me wrong, Selena's actions were totally inexcusable. Cheating is never okay, no matter how routine your relationship has become. But it's a wake-up call, isn't it? We can't just coast along assuming our partner will always be there, always be faithful. Relationships take work, people. And let's talk about Joseph for a hot second. This dude knew Selena was married and still pursued her. That's some grade A douchebaggery right there. I know we didn't get his side of the story, but come on, man, have some respect for other people's relationships. But you know what really got me? The way Owen handled the whole situation. I mean, yeah, he hired a PI, which might seem a bit much to some people, but given how Selena had been gaslighting him, can you really blame the guy? And when he finally confronted them at the restaurant, damn, I felt that in my soul. I gotta say though, I respect the hell out of Owen for not going down the revenge path. It would have been so easy to lash out, to try and hurt Selena the way she hurt him. But he took the high road, and that takes some serious strength of character. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but Jack, shouldn't he give Selena another chance? People make mistakes, right? And sure, they do. But trust is like a mirror, folks. You can glue it back together, but you always see the cracks in your reflection. Sometimes it's better to just get a whole new mirror. I gotta say, though, I'm curious about what's gonna happen with Selena and Joseph. I mean, relationships that start with cheating
rarely end well. There's always that lingering doubt, like if they cheated with you, who's to say they won't cheat on you? But hey, that's not Owen's problem anymore. He's moving forward, focusing on himself, and that's exactly what he should be doing. And I love that he's not letting this experience turn him bitter. He still believes in love, still hopes to find a partner someday. That's some resilient stuff right there.
Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow.